Well, Anin, bonjour. My name is Christian. This is the second episode of our podcast. Today I have Joseph Oppegaard-Peltier the third again, and we have Renee Kieser. Would you like to introduce yourself, Renee? This is your first time on the podcast.
Anin bonjour Renee Kieser Indigenous Kajaganashimo and Minose Clay Nicobedasian the game and Mokaman and Ingami Ingen Nanas Kakabikangi in the Tawagigu Kawa Babaganakag in Dunjaba Natawas in the Bedarkos. I'm a student here at BSU.
You wanna translate what you just said for all the white people who don't know what you just said?
My name's Renee Kieser. Minosekwe is how I'm known. I'm Thunderbird Clan. I was born in Cloquet. I grew up in Minneapolis. I live over in White Earth. I said in Dunjaba, but I'm not from there. I've been living there about 10 years, but Natoash is my home, my community.
All right. Well, she spoke Ojibwe, which was pretty cool. I love to hear it. Okay, well, current events. Super Tuesday was on Tuesday, and Beltrami County, one of what, 4 counties in Minnesota? In Minnesota that went blue for Bernie. Otherwise, we were surrounded by a sea of purple Biden.
So what you're saying is pretty much we here in Minnesota primarily voted for Biden up except for our county and 3 other counties.
Yes.
We did good.
We did, man. We was door knocking, we was calling, we was doing the most, and it shows. It shows where Bernie's supporters worked their asses off because it popped up in those counties. I'm so shook about Minneapolis.
I honestly, well, yeah, Minneapolis, that was sad. It shows what the taste is in our area, and it also shows who's coming out to vote. And a lot of those voters did come from the tribes. We polled that vote with the tribal members over here.
For sure. But yeah, so I was really happy with our counties. The way we voted. Although I'm very disappointed in the state of Minnesota. I'm not really super disappointed in Super Tuesday, I guess. It kind of went almost as I expected, other than Minnesota. Like, I was 110% positive that Minnesota would have went for Bernie Sanders, and I'm just super pissed that we didn't, because we did in 16.
We did in 16, but we didn't have so many candidates in 16, and then it really did not help Bernie Sanders' campaign when we had Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar pull out and then automatically endorse Biden right away, which, I mean,
it was a DNC ploy.
But it shows that we don't have the strong base that we thought we had within the party itself. We're lacking connection to those urban voters. I mean, rural Minnesota, we voted for Bernie Sanders, but in the cities, they went Biden. It just proves that we don't have that urban white voter that we thought we did, and we need to learn how to connect to those folks as well as to the minority communities within our nation.
Yeah, man.
And I hate to say that, but I mean, if we had a more moderate centrist like Elizabeth Warren endorsing Bernie Sanders, we would have had a better turnout. I saw a poll the other day stating that the crossover for Elizabeth Warren voters over to Bernie Sanders is about 40%, and this poll was done, I want to say at least half a year ago, which, I mean, you can obviously see the changes as we had changes in the battlefield that we're on currently.
Okay, so on that topic, what do you think was her thought process in doing that, staying in until Super Tuesday when both Buttigieg and Klobuchar dropped out and endorsed Biden? You would think as the other progressive candidate that you would drop out and pool the progressive vote. together like the moderates did for Biden.
See, you're thinking that Elizabeth Warren is actually a true progressive.
No,
when
she's not, obviously. She's not, but she makes her voters believe that she is, and if she wants to keep that facade going, the smartest option to do would be to endorse Bernie Sanders.
See, I don't think she's making her voters. She does have a lot of crossover policies between the
She
progressive
stole his
and...
entire
No,
his
she
entire
didn't.
thing.
She didn't steal his entire thing.
And-
In fact, they share a lot of the same policies, and that's what I was saying with the crossover. I mean, we saw a few years ago with Elizabeth Warren getting booted out of off the floor for reading Loretta King's speech and having to finish the speech outside the doors. We saw that she has progressive tendencies, but overall she is a conservative-minded politician. And with saying that she is a politician, that's exactly why she was in the race up until tomorrow. It's a calculated decision.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. She is a politician. It was calculated, and she's waiting out on the endorsement process to see what she can get out of it, as any politician would. But the longer and longer that she sits without endorsing anyone, the more detrimental it is going to be for the progressive community within our party.
Well, and I don't think that she cares about that. I don't think she cares about the progressive community. I think she's worried about herself and her political positions.
To an extent, yes. And that's where we go back to saying she is a politician and she has to represent her constituents. There is not too many rich, wealthy folks in Massachusetts, but there are a lot of arms manufacturers within her state. And she even transferred her corporate PAC money from her Senate campaign over into her presidential campaign, which is, exactly where we thought she would be. We always expected that she wasn't going to be this great progressive fighter. On top of that, the money speaks. A few weeks ago, she was saying, I'm not going to take any PAC money, and a week ago, she has the largest super PAC in the race.
Because she doesn't have enough small donors to support her. She doesn't have a Bernie base.
Well, and that's the only way she felt she could gain the traction she needed, which is scary because she's backtracking on the movement to take out big campaign donations in our system. When you backtrack on that kind of stuff, that weakens the movement. And if our generation is going to be the generation to implement campaign finance reforms, she's not going to be our leader. She's not going to be the one that's going to be leading the push for that.
Right.
And it's obvious through her recent actions.
Okay, so moving on from Elizabeth Warren, because she's been irritating the hell out of me lately. What do you think about Tulsi Gabbard still being the one and only woman in the race, and her supporters being so damn gung-ho for her? Which, I mean, granted, I don't not like Tulsi Gabbard, but I mean, there's no way in heaven or hell she's getting anywhere. She might not even get to the next Democratic debate stage.
You know what? Two delegates she has.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo. She's more of an ally. She's earned her merits in my eyes, and honestly, her 2 delegates. Let her choose when she's going to step out of the race and pledge those 2 delegates to Bernie. And hopefully it's a really political, calculated decision that she chooses to do that at. Maybe at the next caucus vote, primary caucus vote.
So next Tuesday.
Yeah. Or maybe if it's right before the convention when we need that extra boost.
She said she's guaranteed that she's going to the convention.
Yeah.
Regardless. And the fact that her supporters are not only like I love that they're diehards for her. I love when you're a diehard political candidate. Like, I'm a diehard burner. All day long, I will fight till I'm blue in the face for Bernie Sanders. He's been fighting for us for 40 years. Like, I'm young and spryly. I will fight for him until, even long after he's left this earth, I will be defending Bernie Sanders. I will be his age defending him. Like, he's a great man. And same thing for Tulsi. She's all right. She's all right.
Okay. You might not know, but she actually qualified for the next debate.
Yeah, well, you win one delegate, you qualify for the next debate. But the DNC is blocking her.
Which is
garbage.
Which is
trash.
Actually, something that they've been doing the whole time around. Which, honestly, why I support her still being in the race, because we've not discussed that at a national level.
Yeah, no, I think it's bullshit what they've done to Tulsi Gabbard, and how they what was it? Somebody was reading an article. Buttigieg bought some Amazon cat, some Google cat, or something like that, and they took down our Facebook cat. And
I don't know so much Buttigieg buying those cats, but I know that Amazon did pull off her campaign ads
and Google did too, and Facebook cut her off.
Yeah, and she sued them, and I believe
they're still litigating. Yep, they're still litigating.
And honestly, that's gonna overall help Bernie Sanders. When you look at it, we're going into a contested convention, and as the weeks and months go on to the convention, we're going to see the amped up attacks against Bernie Sanders from the Democratic corporate establishment. Not that we're not already seeing that currently, but as we have Tulsi Gabbard in the race still, she has that platform of being in the race to be able to use that platform to speak out on behalf of Bernie Sanders.
But is she going to do that?
Okay, so
that's my thing.
Her integrity is almost flawless.
I get that. I get that because on all those debate stages, she had all this opportunity to attack Bernie with the rest of everybody else, and she in fact came to his rescue several times throughout the debates, and in fact like shut half of the BS that they were trying to spew at Bernie down, and which is why I super support a Tulsi VP ticket. But I wanna mention, Renee, you're more than welcome to just chime in on whatever subject you want. I know. So Renee is also not a very big. She's a huge political person, but she doesn't like engage in our democratic system.
I don't consent. I do not consent. Like, if I vote for like the last election, it was between Trump and Hillary. Well, Hillary is, heavily influenced by corporations like Monsanto, and she's invested in the prison system. She's invested in things like that, and and then Trump, I mean, it was like, okay, do we want someone that's pushing Monsanto, or do we want somebody that's pushing pipelines and mines? And I'm an environmentalist, so it's, it's
double-edged sword on your part.
And I've never voted in a presidential election because I don't consent. I don't consent to that system, to what they're doing. I don't consent to the wars. And it's like, it doesn't matter who you vote for. It's not changing, because the system was based on genocide and oppression. It was based on slavery. I mean, they set up the system talking about equal rights, but that only was, equal rights and equality and freedom from tyranny for white men. That doesn't include women. It doesn't include people of color. It doesn't include, anybody else. It's to benefit the white man. Majority of the people that wrote the Constitution and wrote the Declaration of Independence were slave owners, that were putting out bounties for Native Americans. And it's like, I do not consent to that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first election where I've actually considered, going and voting. And like 4 years ago, I was still sharing like Bernie's stuff. I do believe in Bernie. I mean, he's as far as I can see, one of the, he is the best candidate as far as like for the people, for the impoverished, for the environmental justice, for the, a lot of changes in the systems. Like, I mean, he's for the decriminalization of marijuana, which is huge because look at how much of our prison systems are people that are nonviolent offenders, but because of it's a for marijuana. Well, that would open up so many like.
Do you mind if I jump in on
Yes,
it? So
go ahead.
I want to touch a little more on the marijuana stance.
Yes.
He goes as far as saying that he wants to set up a grant type loan system from the tax revenues that we're taking in from the cannabis sales. With that grant loan system, he is proposing that we offer those loans to the communities most affected by this war on drugs, and to those community members that are entrepreneurial minded, he offers that loan system so they can actually borrow money from the federal government, which they have to pay back, but they can use that money to start their own cannabis industry, if that's their own shop or if that's a grow operation. But through that, it is keeping the cannabis industry to the local level, not only to the local level, but to our local level, which is, the minority groups that have been affected. And as we're doing that, we're building up those communities, building up that individual wealth, and keeping that wealth within our local areas. So Bernie Sanders' cannabis legislation is the most progressive, but it also reaches those communities that were affected the most, and that's the Native American communities, the Black, the Hispanic, and so on.
I'm also looking at the prison industrial complex, because they have all these prisons that are for profit. They have all these people that are in there that are nonviolent offenders that, they're going to have to revamp all that.
Spending
but then
years
it's like,
in prison because of weed.
I mean, and you look at some of that with, it's been prohibited for less than 100 years, and that was because it was the biggest competitor to big oil during the Industrial Revolution. I mean, that's what Ford was pushing for, and I mean, it will give all over it would give us a gross national product that, and also helping the environment, but it would also take us to look at and revamp like the for-profit prisons and stuff, because they're, it costs them more money to house the violent offenders, to house people that are in there for violent crimes such as murder, such as rape, such as things like that, and a lot of times you'll see where they'll fall out of the system and they'll go back and they'll reoffend and they'll come through again, but as somebody that's a nonviolent offender, they'll throw the book at them because it's cheaper for them to control that prison population, so you get a higher profit.
And a lot of those low offenders they're incarcerated in prisons that are the for-profit versus the violent offenders that are put back to the state. We're just feeding those corporations money with those minorities that we keep on throwing at them.
You know what I'd like to see on that list of like violent offenders, so like rape, murder, that sort of thing. But I'd also really like to see those like those big bank crooks and the Wall Street crooks. I'd like to see them up there. That's a violent offense. You're stealing from millions of people, millions of dollars from millions of people.
And how many families you're putting into desperation?
Into desperation, so that they have to sell weed or sell drugs, and now they're in prison because you stole from them in the first place.
Or they commit suicide or family family homicide.
Yep.
See, we'd have plenty of room for all these people that are, that are profiting off the suffering of the people. The people that are ripping everybody off, that are poisoning everybody. I mean, all the bankers, all these corporate people. I mean, they have to be held liable for all these problems, for these deaths, and just giving them probation and charging these exorbitant fines that they just, we're bankrupt now, and then they start off another business over here. I mean, that stuff can't fly no more.
No, it can't. It can't. And I agree. I completely agree. I mean, we had a situation like that in our own community right here in this damn building. $140,000. The previous executive director was the article just released day before.
MIEC funds.
The Minnesota Indian Education Fund. He stole, the previous executive director, Bill Blackwell, embezzled $140,000 from the Indian Education
That
Fund.
is disgusting.
Indian Education Fund. So not only did he steal from little Indian babies and all Indian babies all over, but he stole from his own damn Indian babies.
See, and that's it. But that's that influence, and that's that,
Money,
and
greed.
well, it's not just that. It's they get tired of that struggle. They get tired of that, and if everyone was doing better, if everyone was doing good, it wouldn't be like this, because they're, if I'm doing just a little bit better, and, then, I'm good because I'm, but then they forget about everybody else that isn't doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you call it? It's a spiritual epidemic that we have here, that it's so focused on independence, and you got to do it on your own, and it's like there's all these billions of people in the world. Why do we have to do everything by ourselves? Why do we have to be independent? Yeah, and you set yourself up for failure, because we're supposed to work together. We're supposed to help each other. We're supposed to all, do our contribution. And
isn't that why we pay taxes?
Yes.
It's to help each other.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, but we have $10 million a day goes to Israel, and they have free health care, they have free education, and here I am 6 years
Saudi
into
Arabia
school, and
also.
I have over 40,000 in student debt, and I am not even done yet, and I still have my master's to go through, and that's to, I'm working on cleaning the water to lower the cancer rates and everything else, but I'm lucky if I'll be able to get a job for, 40,000-50,000 a year once I graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
we're racking up thousands and thousands of dollars in student debt to take positions that we'll probably work in the rest of our lives, and probably still leave a little bit of student debt for our children to pay off.
Yeah, and the military budget, oh my God, and that's what I don't consent to. I don't consent to, we have all this money to go bomb these other people that are defending their countries, that are patriots in their country. They're defending their resources. They're fighting to, keep their culture, their language, their land, and it's all over, and people are okay with that as long as they got their Netflix, as long as they got their Starbucks, as long as they got their whatever their little shiny is, they're okay with it.
That budget, that military budget, yeah, it goes to those bombs, it goes to those weapons, it goes to helping funding Saudi Arabia, Israel, all those foreign mineral wars, regime change wars that we've been participating with in the last
20 years.
6 decades.
The opium.
Oh, even longer.
Yeah,
the opium, right. The oil, gold, oil, and drugs.
But we have our actual U.S. military personnel families utilizing our SNAP benefits because they are not pulling in enough money through the military compensations that they get. That money is not going to our troops. It's going to those private contractors that are just
Lockheed,
raiding our money.
like Blackwater,
you know that our
like
infantry,
Fluor,
infantry still using guns from Vietnam, right? Like rusty old fucking guns. They're still using from Vietnam.
But how much?
But we're spending trillions of dollars. We can't even. Well, first we can't even buy them a new gun because we're buying all the new guns to sell to everybody else to continue our wars, and we can't even pay our troops a livable wage or give them the mental health benefits that they deserve after they come back from they come back from defending us, and not even defending us but terrorizing other countries, and then have PTSD and can't even function when they come back, and we refuse to give them the mental health that they deserve.
But it makes sense. That's the labor class we're talking about. That's the minority groups that actually go into the military. Mm-hmm. We don't have very many rich white.
No,
we got no rich white people that go into the military. What? Their idea of war is hiring one half of the poor to kill the other half.
Oh, but how many millions do they make with every bomb that's dropped, with every, they make money off of all that stuff, the big cruisers, the airplanes, and all those resources, like for the mining, for the, to make all this stuff. How much in resources alone do they have just for the military? Like you count every ship, every plane, every vehicle,
every car and gun,
and that we paid for, and most of the people can't even afford, to get by week to week.
we're paying that,
Yeah.
but there's not even a competition for those bids, for those contracted bids. So it's pretty much whoever you're friends with that is a politician, they're gonna put you as the prime contractor, and you're gonna get that tax money. That's gonna pay for everything. We look at the wall, and fuck the wall.
God.
Well,
Yeah.
fuck the wall. But we look at the wall and we understand that thing blew over a couple weeks ago.
From
Yeah.
25-mile-an-hour winds.
You can use a sawzall and cut right through it.
So
In fact, the Mexican people are tearing the walls apart and building their homes up.
So we're sitting here
Which, I mean,
looking
good for
at
them.
the crappy work that these private contractors did, and we're wondering where the hell did all that money go? Because obviously Mexico did not pay for that wall. We are paying for that wall, and that money that Donald Trump said, we're not paying for that wall, Mexico is, that's coming out of SNAP, that's coming out of our Social Security, that's coming out of the programs that we put our time and effort into creating and boosting up, that are just slowly getting gutted away by this administration.
Yeah, I mean, Flint still doesn't have clean water. They still got babies in cages. 24,000 people a day die from starvation. But my wall, my freedoms,
America.
Right?
America.
And that's why I don't consent to this system. It's such a broken and
You know what? I understand that, but here's my counter argument to that. My dad, because I wanted to be that person, right? I wanted to be like, well, fuck the system. It's not working for me. It's not working for you. Why do you even participate? Why do you vote?
Because even if he wins a majority, Trump's still going to get in on the electoral.
I mean, but failure to vote is not an act of rebellion, and it's an act of surrender. I mean, it's the only thing that we as American people can do besides grabbing pitchforks and torches and marching down the street. Which I'm all for that. I'm all for grabbing a pitchfork and a torch and marching down the street. We're gonna do it this weekend here in solidarity. Tomorrow in solidarity with the
spiritual.
Oh yeah, it's spiritual walk in solidarity
solidarity
with the Wet'suwet'en tribe in Canada. We got you, bros.
You didn't vote in the primary, so
No.
you must have voted. You voted in 2016.
Nope, I've never voted.
Oh, I thought you had said you had voted in.
I've never voted in a presidential election. The
And-
only time I've ever voted was for the sheriff of Monoman County.
So you're not at the table. Because if we're not at the table, we don't have a voice. And that's why I vote.
I came to my first caucus.
I love it. So you caucused with us.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's the radical I've been talking
You're the
about.
radical. Okay,
And I could have swore I had him in my pocket to go fucking primary vote. But, shit happens, cars break down, bitches are like, man, I don't feel like it. It's a primary. It's not even the actual election.
But those were important. And
Oh, no, very
Because
important.
to get Bernie in. I mean, you look at Biden, oh my God, creepy Joe Biden. I mean, it's like, okay, if Biden gets in there and we got a choice between a rich pedophile or a rich pedophile, which one is it? I mean, oh my God, that man is scary. They're both racist. They're both, just
Ignorant and old.
and I mean, my vote would be for Bernie.
you don't see the light.
Burn that system. I mean,
Honestly, I think this is the start of it. If we get Bernie elected, I honestly feel like we will have within the next 10 years. I'm not going to say in Bernie's presidency or his next one or whoever comes after him that's what's going to happen. But I do believe that he is going to be the start to kick things off so that we do burn BERN this system to the ground. I only boosted up to 70 and I'm
holy
still
man,
cold.
I'm sweating.
So literally, we only have 4 years with Bernie. Like it or not, we have 4 years of Bernie Sanders as our president.
Maybe 8 if he can win a second one.
It's not going to happen. He's in the age that his mental decline is going to go down. So we're looking at who's shooing in after the next 8 or for the next 4 years, and we're looking at it. And we're trying to figure out who's the best candidate now. But I'm always thinking about the future. And we need to groom that candidate that's going to push the same policies and continue on that drive for 2024. And I'm looking at Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, she's flip-flopped on Medicare for All. But between her and Elizabeth Warren, I see Tulsi being the more backbone individual to do so. And without the President Bernie Sanders in position, I fear that Elizabeth Warren or Amy Klobuchar or
Pew.
whatever centrist candidate you're going to try to push at us in 2024.
Because like these people are practically right
Republican.
These people are practically right wingers. In fact, they are right wingers. Like if you, I posted this thing on Facebook. It was just a diagram of like where everybody says people are on the political spectrum, and Bernie was way over here, like far left, and I'm like,
it's
no,
called the Overton window.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. But honestly, like from a political science standpoint, like Bernie Sanders is just left of center. And Elizabeth Warren is center, and Joe Biden is right of center, and the rest of them are like falling off the end of the right
Well,
wing.
you do know that Trump was a Democrat before.
Yeah,
He ran as a Republican.
And Bloomberg was a Republican. And
I don't left
Elizabeth
wing,
Warren
right wing.
was a
It's the same
Republican.
bird, you know, and that's how I see it. It
Yeah,
doesn't,
I
they
agree.
can say, oh, I'm a Republican, but then have Democratic stance, and the Democrats are the ones that used to support slavery, and it's like, but that's what I mean. Either way, it's a broken system because it's a system based on oppression, trying to talk about getting freedom from tyranny and everything else, but at the same time being an oppressive and tyrannical.
We have to do it from the inside though. If we're gonna break this system, we're not gonna break it from the outside. We have to internally.
That's why you crash their economy.
Enveloped inside. How do we do that though?
The shutdowns of coronavirus, it's already happening.
I mean,
We're not broken. Just pointing that out. And I love that we're angry at this, but we're not broken. This is democracy. And this is what happens when we're not active within our democracy.
I honestly believe, though, I feel like progressive values, like we as progressives are never going to see a president be the actual president in the embrace of the Democratic Party.
FDR.
I mean,
JFK.
But way back in the day, back before it was so easy to manipulate people.
Okay,
You only
so
get this
we've
window
been-
like every 30 years. It like rolls.
It's actually every 100 years, and
It's at
we're
Fibonacci.
right at that cusp. We're right at that cusp where we can change this whole course. And that's through being at this table. And that's why we vote. That's why you caucus. Thank you for coming. And that's why it is so important to be engaged. Because when we stop being the stewards of America, other people take control. And that's what's happening now. 35 years ago, the Democratic Party, we saw progressive candidates, McGovern, JFK, and the likes of them. We saw them pushing a universal healthcare system. We saw them building and creating Social Security. We are a progressive party. It's just 35 years ago, we elected, well, about 31 years ago, we elected a guy named Bill Clinton. And he was one of the starts, besides right after the McGovern administration. He's one of the biggest pushes for the technocrats, for the professionals of America taking over the Democratic Party. And that's where we're sitting at right now, is those professionals owning and running our party, leaving out us labor class to just grab the crumbs.
I didn't exhale.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, we've only had 3.5 decades of this centrist bullshit, and we've gutted our party. It's annihilated us
I
at
didn't
the
do
state level.
jack shit.
nothing.
I didn't do jack shit. It was the fucking moderates and the bullshit centrists who gutted our party. And in fact, if they steal this nomination from Bernie Sanders, I will vote for the Democratic nominee only to prove that Bernie Sanders supporters did vote for the Democratic nominee and they still fucking lost.
Well, you're a better man than I am, because I'm still looking into see if Jill Stein's running.
No, she's not.
I gotta find my other candidate.
Right in.
I promise you that there isn't another candidate. There isn't. I mean, you could vote even the two legalized marijuana parties. Why there's two of them, I don't know. Neither of them have put forth a candidate either.
They are a state party, and they weren't on the ballot because they don't have a candidate on the ballot. That's why they weren't on the ballot. They won't be putting forward a candidate for the presidential nominee because literally they are a state party. That's why. As for the Green Party, I briefly heard that they're kind of shooing in a centrist.
I mean, the thing is they're not gonna fucking win. That's my whole point.
But my hope, which is why I voted for Dr.
You gotta go?
Yeah.
All right, well, nice to talk to you, Renee. Your points are valid, and I love hearing to talk to you.
It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
I'd love for you to come to another podcast. It'd be really good. You're pretty smart.
But it's like, it's just, we can do so much more. We can be so much better as a whole population. I mean, a global population. But we have to balance that out. I mean, we have to do something about this oligarchy. We are not in a democracy. We are in an oligarchy. These corporations have this stranglehold, and that's the only way we're going to do anything is to take what from them. The only thing that matters to them, and that's that money. That's the only thing they care about. And watch them cry. Watch them jump out the windows like they did in 1929. A white man's the only one that'll kill himself over
stock
money.
Market.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
I mean, I was listening this morning, and it was already down 2.7% on my way in, and oil's down to $43 some a barrel, and it's like, yes, because if they get under $40 a barrel,
market just skyrocketed.
Oh yeah, because they had to make up with that. I mean, because they're invested in both. Yeah. It's like there's 242 billionaires living in the United States. You want to make some change, you start composting them billionaires.
Exactly.
Hot damn.
Well, thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Alrighty.
Yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Manoa, love you.
I'm going to draw out this podcast a little bit longer. I know you're getting annoyed with me. But you have this event tomorrow, this Solidarity Peace Walk that is supporting the
Wet'suwet'en tribe in Canada.
Thank you. The Wet'suwet'en tribe over in Canada. What's going on over there?
So the pipelines and the tar sands are trying to put a pipeline through the reservation land that was never seized by the Canadian government. It's always been in the care and in the hands of the tribal nations, specifically the Wet'suwet'en tribe. And the government is now, they're like, oh, we forgot about this little piece of land we didn't get to steal from you, and now we're going to do it and put a pipeline through it. And the Wet'suwet'en tribe is like, no, you're not. So the hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en tribe, the people yep. of the Wet'suwet'en tribe are like, no, we don't want this, we don't need this. Our people are poisoned enough, you've poisoned our water, you've poisoned our land, you've poisoned our animals enough. We don't want this here. But the people that are in charge of the nation, the elected officials, have already signed an agreement, I think. And so that's what's going on, is that they're I think the Wet'suwet'en tribe specifically is always supposed to put forth big decisions like that to a referendum vote. And most tribes are supposed to. That's usually in all of our constitutions, because that's just historically who we were. We had to ask the entire
Democracy,
tribe.
We trust nobody.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of tribes aren't putting things to a referendum vote just because they know that the people would be like, no, we're not doing this. And so they're doing backdoor shady deals and not listening to their people and to their elders, specifically their spiritual leaders and their spiritual elders.
So the Canadian government's going in there, raiding the camps.
Yep, raiding their camp. I mean, the people are standing there in complete peaceful prayer and protest. There's no activists going on yet. Mini Wachoni, Nibi, Bama, Dizzy Win, water is life. And the Canadian government just don't care. They're pushing that pipeline through the same way they did at Standing Rock. They're pushing it through. They don't care what the people say. They're deploying troops and police officers, and they're destroying teepees and tents and wigwams and homesteads. They're just demolishing things, stealing resources from them. I was watching a video on Facebook the other day, and they were throwing like brand new winter coats into the trash. And because these people that were pushed out of this camp like forgot to grab the stuff, and the cops were
Forgot or didn't have time?
Didn't have time. So forgot, because in a rush I'm like, what do I need? I'm just snatching up everything I can think of, mostly food and water. And then you get it to the other side of the river, and bam, I forgot those damn coats.
How much do we want to bet that we're gonna, or those tribes are gonna get blamed for trashing that land?
Oh, they will, just like they did at Dapple. Yep. We weren't given time to clean up the mess at Standing Rock, and we were blamed. Oh, these garbage people just left their trash, and there was no time to clean up after ourselves. We were straight up pushed off this land, arrested, water hosed, tear gassed.
Besides that, the peace walk tomorrow starts at 6 a.m. When does it end, and what?
It's actually a 24-hour ceremony. So they'll start at the Enbridge headquarters here in Bemidji, and they'll walk to the TC Energy headquarters here in Bemidji as well. Okay. So it's about, I think, 7 miles, and the AIRC is the halfway point. So I'll be here early tomorrow, starting some coffee, getting water together, whipping up some sandwiches, and whatever I can do to feed the masses and warm the masses while they come marching. I'll probably take part in like some ceremony after, towards the evening or whatever. Okay, but anyway, on that note, we're gonna end this podcast. It's been great talking with you as well as Renee, and I'm actually really excited to just continue this podcast. I feel like I'm going to continue this podcast long after this class project is over. So thanks guys.
Thank you.